Winning, but to me it's just a blowout. Ay. Every week we putting numbers on the board, we show out. Ay. All it took was just a bit of patience with the grind. Ay. You can never hold it back.
All right, join us now on Drive the Lane. I mean, technically our boss, Jeff Goodman. Jeff, welcome to the show.
I'm nobody's boss. But glad to have you on board on the field of 68. You guys have crushed it already. Joey's good seeing you at the, I hate to say it, the Ohio State-Oregon game, because, you know, it was kind of the one, well, not the one downer, but certainly people were not walking out of that one happy. So, but it was good seeing you. And now we got the Buckeyes rolling here for hoops. And who would have thought they would have beaten Duke? Not me.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. And I don't even know what football season is, because it is basketball season now. And we've moved on, even though 5 minutes ago, Ohio State just hired their new defensive coordinator. But that's not being talked about on this show because it is basketball season. But yeah, Jeff, I mean, the Buckeyes are nuts, right? Like the games that they've almost lost make no sense. The game that they are winning almost make no sense. And it ended up having a season so far that is basically what kind of people anticipated. What are kind of your early thoughts on the Bucs so far?
Chris Holtmann's just a friggin' genius. Like that's all you can say is like he's so damn good because he doesn't really have a point guard right now. Let's be honest, guys. And I'm not sure he's had a point guard since he's been the head coach at Butler or Ohio State for the most part, right? Like who's he had at Ohio State? Last year he did, finally. But for the most part, he hasn't had a high level point guard in many years at Butler and early days at Ohio State. He hasn't really had a point guard at all. And somehow this dude continues to not just win, but win at a really, really high level. And, they had thought about going Justice Sueing. When I was there in the preseason, it was like, well, we're going to run a lot through Sueing this year because, again, we don't really have a point guard. Maybe we'll try to figure it out, but Michi's not a point guard. Obviously, Malachi is not. So he's going to be Sueing most likely. And now they don't have Sueing. They played him, what's he played, 2-3 games so far? And still, they beat Duke. They're 6-2. They've got a tough stretch coming up soon. Even Towson's a little bit of dangerous team. But, obviously you got Kentucky coming up, Wisconsin before that. So it'll be important that they don't lose both of those. They just need a split out of Wisconsin and Kentucky. And I think Chris Holtmann would say, if you beat who you're supposed to beat, Towson, and then a couple cupcakes at the end in UT Martin in New Orleans, you finish out your non-conference pretty strong and you're feeling good about yourself, and maybe you get Sueing back, in a month or so.
Because it's college basketball, my bet would be a loss to Towson and then a win over Kentucky and Wisconsin. But, the bulk of the Big Ten schedule is obviously coming up. Anyone who follows your Twitter account sees what you've been tweeting. Ohio State, Maryland, February 6th. What team's Holtmann going to be coaching?
Yeah, I just said, and I want to clarify this, that if I were Maryland, I would go after Chris Holtmann. That's how highly I think of him. I wasn't saying he would take the job. And the same thing for Nate Oates. Nate Oates, I said as well, he has a huge buyout. Mike Boynton has a huge buyout. I'd look at him as well if I were Maryland. And I don't think Holt leaves for anywhere that's probably not based in Lexington, Kentucky, or in the NBA. I think those are probably the two things you'd have to worry about with Chris Holtmann. And in order to go to the NBA, he's got to get to a Final Four before anybody's going to hire him at the NBA level.
So my question to you based on that is, and something that we've argued on this show and something that we've argued with our friends as well, where do you think Ohio State basketball ranks as a job in the country?
A little bit below Maryland, I would say. I think Maryland's a better job because it's a basketball job. Now, it depends who you are. Some coaches, like Mark Turgeon, for instance, do better in a football job. They don't want the attention. They don't want the pressure. It's part of the reason Mark Turgeon said, you know what, I'm good. I'm done. Because he didn't fit College Park and the crazies that are there. Where Chris Holtmann has a job that fits him in a lot of ways, right? I mean, he doesn't care about being the number one guy. he can leave that to Ryan Day. But, I think what he would like, and I'm not speaking for him here, but is, better crowd support in the non-conference. And you guys can speak to that. I was there even a couple of years ago in a Penn State game, a conference game that was fairly early, and it was half full, if that. So I think that's why, to me, Maryland is a better job than Ohio State. Maryland also has better players in the area. Now, there's more schools fighting for those players, probably. Virginia, Georgetown, Villanova, a lot of schools in that area fighting for the same players, but it's a better recruiting, more fertile recruiting ground, probably even than Ohio. There's a lot of good players that come out of Ohio, but not nearly as many that come out of the DMV.
So we'll continue the show operating as everyone is in place where they are right now. So right now, Holtmann's the head coach of Ohio State. They got, a gauntlet coming up, like you mentioned. But, let's get past the non-con. Where do you think they rank in the Big Ten with what you've seen so far? Throw preseason expectations out the window. Right now, what you've seen, how do you think they stack up against the rest of the field?
I mean, I think Purdue is the clear number one, like clear cut. I mean, I saw them twice at Mohegan Sun, and I saw them preseason. It was blown away because I just saw Zach Edey absolutely dominating Trevion Williams. I was like, oh my God, if he's going to be this good and Jaden Ivey's electric, like nobody has a Jaden Ivey to me in the country. Nobody has a guard that you can just put the ball in his hands and say, like, go get one for me. And he's big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's electric. And in transition, he's shown the ability to really pass the ball as well. I don't know if he can do that in the half court, but in transition, he's been really good. After that, I think anybody's guess as to who number 2 is in the Big Ten right now. I don't know. I mean, obviously right now it's kind of Wisconsin, but I'm not a believer that they're going to keep this going. Although, Johnny Davis has been awesome, and Brad Davis in his 12th year. So it's a major advantage for the Badgers there. But throw them in a hat, Illinois, yeah, they're playing better right now without Curbelo, but I assume Curbelo is going to come back. And how's that going to look? Will they even take off more, or will they revert back to kind of how they were? Because Curbelo it looked like he was playing for the other team, so I would say Ohio State, if they can get Sewing back, let's say for January 1st, because that's probably when you need him back. I haven't looked at the schedule in front of me right now. But again, if you could split Wisconsin and Kentucky, win those other 3 games, what does that put you? 6-2, so 7-3, 10-3, 10-3 after Wisconsin, one league game there. So 9-3 in the non-con. That's pretty darn good.
For the toughest, arguably the toughest non-conference schedule in the entire country, right? I mean,
it's up there. Yeah,
their team is playing at Xavier, Seton Hall neutral site, Florida neutral site,
yes.
Duke at home. Like, I know it's not number 1, but it's up there.
It's really good. Yeah, however you want to cut it, it's really good. And even Towson's playing well right now, so that won't be a bad. If they win that one, that won't be Towson probably in the 200 range instead of how they've been the last couple of years. So you need those 2, maybe even higher than 200. You need the mid majors to be good.
Yeah.
When you look around at the net, guys, that's why LSU is number 2 right now, is because they've beaten a bunch of good mid majors and beaten them pretty significantly. That's why Ohio State, remember a couple of years ago, they were number 1
I do.
in the first net because they pounded the shit out of teams.
Yeah.
And the scoring margin is capped at 10,
right,
but the efficiency numbers are not. So when you pound a team like that, a UT Martin or a Towson or I can't remember who the other cupcake they got coming up is, but they got one more. If you pound a team like that, your efficiency numbers are going to be the ones that you really benefit from, even when you're up 30 points, not the scoring margin.
Right. So then big picture, when you're looking at the NCAA, where, Purdue's the number 1 team in the country, and I would agree that not only in the Big Ten, but in the country, they're clear-cut number 1 right now. Where do you think Ohio State fits among the elite? Not necessarily what's their ceiling, but not to make you do tiers or anything, but what Where do you see them fitting in?
Not in the group. I've probably got a group of like 6 or 8 teams that I think can win 6 straight. I would not put Ohio State in that group. I'd put them in the next group, which is somewhere from like 10 to 30. And I don't think there's a lot of difference, guys.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, again, look at it even within the Big Ten. And you say to yourself, all right, Iowa, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Michigan State, Illinois, Michigan, and I'm not there yet. Indiana, I'm not there yet. You know, you got a couple in the Pac-12. You know, UCLA probably at the top of that list. Then, you know, Arizona and USC would be in that group. I mean, SEC's got a ton of them in that group. Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, maybe Auburn. So I think Ohio State's in that group. The key for me, guys, is I didn't hear you. Sorry, say that again.
Missouri.
I said Missouri because I went to
They're
Missouri.
awful, atrocious.
We love
I don't know
Conzo.
who's worse.
We love Conzo. So
I think we need like an MTE with like Pittsburgh, Missouri, Washington. Who else? Who would be the fourth?
Georgetown.
do like-
Georgetown.
Yeah. Georgetown. We should try to get this going. Georgetown, Pittsburgh, Missouri, Washington, and like the loser of that, whoever goes 0-2, has
Relegated.
to quit. They got to quit their season. They're done.
And put it like in like New Mexico, the game. Like just put it. Oh man, that's good.
That's actually too good. No, New Mexico is too good.
Just
Yeah,
put it in Columbia, Missouri.
Hey, my daughter got into Missouri, so
I know. I went there.
all right.
That's
So
why
there
I'm-
you go. So
Yeah.
So I mean, she's not going to go to Missouri, but I mean, I can't put her through those games. That's not right to do to anybody right now.
It's tough to go to a sports school that has no sports. It's tough.
I can get her some pretty sweet NIL deals if she goes to Missouri. I got some connections there.
What is the best program at Missouri right now?
Sports?
Yes,
The wrestling program.
wrestling program. All
The
right,
wrestling program's very
there you
good.
go.
There's
There
a
you go.
lot
You
of
have it.
there's a lot of professional like boxers, MMA fighters, wrestlers that came from Mizzou.
All right. All right. Well, I don't know if my daughter wants to cover wrestling, but
That's the Missouri Minute on the show for this week.
Well, I
So-
gotta say one more thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
And this is because I saw you say it. If I see one more person say Conzo Martin, great guy, but not sure if he's like, we've been seeing that for 5 years that he's a great guy.
But people are taking shots now at him that listen, they suck. We know that. It started honestly, like I feel like the Porters are to blame for all this. Like, can we blame the Porters for all of this?
Sure.
Hiring the dad, the injuries with both of them. I feel like it was the worst. You know, usually the family hires work out fairly well, right? Like, you know, Mario Chalmers' dad, Danny Manning's dad. Kansas has killed it with these deals. Even look at what happened at USC, right? I mean, Mobley. Dad brought 2 kids. They've been pretty damn good. And Missouri, Conzo gets the job and he does it. And it has been a complete shit show in Columbia ever since.
Poor Missouri. But that's enough. That's enough Mizzou.
Enough Mizzou talk.
Jeff, and one thing we like to ask guys like yourself who see just about every team play each year in person, especially.
Yeah.
Who are some of the guys, players specifically, you know, a West Coast guy that no one gets to see, or a mid-major guy that people don't get to see on TV, and then also guys that are on those great teams? Who are some of your favorite players to watch this year?
Listen, I just came back from Fort Collins, Colorado, and man, I love these 2 kids at Colorado State. David Roddy. If you haven't seen him, you have to see him. He's 6'5", 245, former quarterback in high school, and I'm telling you, he can be an NFL tight end. His footwork is insane, and his legs are like big. You look at him, and you're like, "Come on, there's no way this dude can move this way." And great kid. And he's a junior, and Isaiah Stevens is his kind of running mate, point guard who came from Texas, and one of the better point guards in the country. He's really cut down his assist turnover ratio, taking care of the ball. I think he's second in the country in assists. those two, telling you, like, I wouldn't want to play Colorado State in the NCAA tournament. Those dudes can play. Who else have I seen that I really like? I've seen most of the top teams now in person. Gonzaga, UCLA, Duke, Kentucky. I love Ty Washington. Okay, now I know Kentucky's played nobody lately. They've been playing cupcakes and nobody's paying attention. I actually think that's the right thing for Calipari to do, because he's gonna get this team. They're kind of under the radar now. Oscar Tshiebwe's a monster down there rebounding the basketball. They don't have anything behind them. That scares me. But I love Ty Washington, the freshman from Phoenix, combo guard, just knows how to play. Got off to a tough start in the Champions Classic game. So everybody's like, oh, he's overrated, this, that, and the other. Dude knows how to play. He can score from all three levels. He can make his teammates better. He's not a great athlete, good size. So Ty, and again, part of it for me is too, I want to love the player, but I need to love the kid too, a lot of times. So if it's both for me, then I'm totally in. And Ty was awesome. It was funny. He came after their exhibition. He was on the podium, or like a little podium, and he walks off. And generally, I'm about 6'3". So I want to, with a guard like that, a lot of times I want to stand next to him and see how big they are. So he comes up next to me, and I'm like, hey, man, how tall are you really? Let me stand next to you. And I'm like, what are you, 6'5"? And he went bananas. He was like 6'5". He's like yelling at the SIDs. He's like, he says I'm 6'5". I'm 6'5". They're listing him at 6'3". And I'm like, all right, let's slow your roll. Maybe you're 6'4". And I guess he ran in the locker room, and he's like, he said I was 6'5". I'm 6'5". Like, just like the energy, funny, laughing. So like, I don't know. And I think he's really good. I really do.
So talking players, Joey and I, rightfully so, think EJ Liddell is, one of the top players in the country. Do you think he has the opportunity to, make a case for the player of the year?
Hell yeah. Of course. I mean, how can he not? Right? I mean, he's averaging 20 and 8 or something, shooting it well from three, and like, I don't know, shit, he might lead the country in blocks the way it's going right now.
Big time.
The craziest thing ever, right? Like the craziest, I don't know what he's averaging blocks, 3 a game, something like that.
Over 3, yeah.
Over 3 a game, EJ Liddell. But like, his body looks so much better. He's winning. Big. He's just, like, here's the thing with EJ Liddell. 10 years ago, you would have looked at him and been like, he can't play in the league. Now you look at other, George Niang, Draymond, the body, 6'7", undersized dudes. PJ Tucker kind of started it in a way, but he's a killer, PJ Tucker. George Niang does more, and Draymond does more passing the basketball than EJ does. But there's no question in my mind, in the right system, EJ Liddell can be a 12-year NBA pro that's not sitting at the end of the bench, but producing for an NBA team.
Yeah, I mean, Holtmann said it on his radio show yesterday. I caught a bit of it, and luckily he was talking about EJ. He said he's the best help side rim protector that he's ever seen. I mean, he was doing it a lot last year because he was guarding the big guys, and he got, a block or two a game because he's guarding the 4s and the 5s. But now he's playing on the wing, and he has the opportunity to really shine like he did in high school, because he was, people in Illinois say he's the best shot blocker they've ever seen. The dude was 6'6", So, he is shining because he's playing not only on the wing on offense now and getting more opportunities that way, but also more opportunities on defense by guarding like a Seth Lundy against Penn State. Like, he would never have guarded Seth Lundy last year. And in turn, he's coming down help side and beating balls off the backboard like no one's ever seen before. The major strides for him, yes, he's in better shape. He's a better shooter. He's more efficient. He makes tough shots. But on defense, he's guarding the best wing every single night and still blocking shots and apparently more. Now, it's just, he's becoming a very well-rounded prospect, which obviously he needed to do.
And he's also playing, like you said, on the wing, on the offensive end, and showing that he can't just expose big men, which is really what he had let's
Right.
face it, last year, part of the reason he was so successful offensively was because he was playing against bigs and he could beat him off the bounce. Now he's doing it against threes and maybe some guys that his size at the 4. And I think that's going to help him as well. He's so versatile. And again, yeah, to me right now, it's hard not to have him. If you're doing an All-American team today, you got to have him on there. You got to have him on there somewhere.
Yeah, I know KenPom has him as the number 1 guy right now for their player of the year. The last thing that I want to touch on is the fact that in addition to him being guarded by guys who were mismatches last year, he's also the focal point now for defenses. Whereas last year it was Dwayne Washington, maybe Justice Suing, maybe even Justin Arns before EJ Liddell. And now EJ is, for some reason, he's getting all the attention, but it still doesn't feel like teams are selling out to stop him yet, which makes no sense. But you saw Penn State tried to sell out to stop him and Zed, and it didn't work out so well. So it'll be a really interesting year moving forward. I'm amazed with how he has kept up his fast start, because Holtmann told us when he came on the show, he's told me in person 1,000 times that EJ is going to have to be a first team all Big Ten guy, which is great. But apparently he's got to be a first team All-American for them to be as good as they want to be. So we'll see how it keeps going moving forward, but we've got all the confidence in the world. You talk about a guy who not only is a great player, but a great person. I mean, I hosted the guy on his visit. I met his parents and his parents still text my mom.
I want to hear about that visit. I want to hear about that visit and you know, the off the record stories of what did you do to get EJ Liddell to Columbus?
He said your other option is Mizzou, and that was all he needed to say.
Literally, he was down to Illinois, Mizzou, and Ohio State, which means he was down to Ohio State and Illinois. But we did ask him on the show, like, hey, do you feel bad for turning down Mizzou? And he's like, no, because Andrew's got to get his Mizzou minute in there. But on the record, what I'll say is the reason why the coaches had me host every single kid that came through from, when I was a junior and hosting guys like Dwayne Washington, Justin Arns, etc., to when I was a senior hosting guys like DJ Carton, EJ Liddell, was because I told it like it is. They didn't seem threatened by me because obviously I wasn't taking any of their minutes, but also I told them about the university and how beloved they'll be, because if they loved guys like me, they're going to love guys like him. I remember our conversation when we Ubered back to his hotel with EJ. It was very heart to heart. It was, these coaches are going to care about you. You're going to be a superstar here, and there's no better place in the country than being in Ohio State. Clearly he took to that in addition to what we did beforehand. I think.
So I was going to say, it wasn't your ability to get girls. I thought that was the number one thing here.
Yeah, I let my teammates do that stuff. I do the hard stuff. They do the fun stuff. That was kind of my job. Yeah. So yeah, I'm in sales now. I just stick to the sales stuff. They can do the other stuff. It was a very intricate little equation that we had going on there. So it worked out well.
Whatever you did, man, that's a hell of a get. I hope Chris Holtmann is taking care of you with good seats and everything else. Gear, I would use that every time I saw Holtmann. I would be using that right now with, hey, listen, if you didn't have EJ Liddell right now, you'd be looking for another job in a couple of years. So I want gear. I want free dinners. You name it. I want it all. And I'm going to leverage this thing for all I can.
Courtside tickets at Maryland.
There you go. Yes. Exactly.
No, the real, once Brad Stevens hires him with the Celtics, that's when I need to parlay it right there. So
I don't think Brad's going to be around long enough to hire Chris Holtmann with the Celtics GM job. We'll see, but I'm not sure.
What the heck is he not coaching? That's a story for a different podcast.
You're absolutely right. It is amazing. I do think he'll go back to coaching here soon. But yeah, we'll talk about that one another. Can I finish with something I want to ask you guys before I go?
Perfect. This is the end of the. I know you've listened to all the episodes. It's how we end every episode. So
my biggest concern, obviously, is what everybody's probably concerned about, which is the guard play. And is it good enough to take this team? We know what EJ can do. We've seen Zed. I think, again, they've got good pieces. Kyle Young's an awesome piece, like awesome. But the guards worry me, and I just don't know if those, like, if we can rely on it. I guess the biggest thing to me is, what do you guys do at the point guard situation? What happens here? You wait for Suing?
You take this one, Andrew.
Well, I'm smiling because this is when you wish, you could make trades in college basketball, because would there be a better trade package than something centered around Kyle Young? Like, hey, this is a guy.
We're not trading Kyle Young.
No, I know, but like if you were,
no
if
chance.
you were advertising it, hey, this is a guy that started in the Big Ten in the last 2 years. You want him? Give us a senior guard, or hey, LSU, give us Xavier Pitson. So I'm like addicted to Mizzou right now. I apologize, but usually we defer to Joey in these moments, but as we've seen, it's worked out so far. Joey, I'm going to defer back to you.
Yeah, I just think, and this is something that, funny enough, me and Robbie Hummel have talked a lot about Ohio State, obviously with Robbie doing a ton of Big Ten stuff. That's his main question about Ohio State, as well as any person who has watched basketball before. I think what's interesting is, in order to win in March, you need guards. As great as your front court is, like, you need guards to get them the ball, but also to take some load off those guys. And the guards have been good. They've been solid. Each guy's got to take a step. Like, you think Jamari Wheeler has to score 8-10 points a game. Malachi Branham has to be a go-to guy at that wing spot, assuming Justice Suing is not back in a timely fashion, which between you and me, guys, which, and I know no one else will hear what we're saying right now, I think he is further away from coming back than what people are saying. And I just think that at the end of the day, the guards need to get in positions to help the team, right? Like, if Jamari's giving you 10, that's awesome. But if he gives you 9 assists like he did last night, that's just as good. So just being able to get in the lane, create shots for others, do guard things as like a two-headed monster between Malachi and Michi, or between Jamari and Michi, that's what they need to do. I think that between Justin Arns and Malachi, that's enough, like, scoring punch on the wing, assuming Justin is shooting the ball well. So then if you bring in Justice, who can handle the rock a little bit more, create for others a little bit more, create for himself a little bit more, that's kind of the missing piece. But yeah, it is weird having no go-to guard for us. And as much as I want Michi to be that eventually, I don't think that's not his role. That's not where he's best. So it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic. But like Andrew said, it's kind of working so far. It's working just about as good as it can. So we shall see.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys having me on. Keep doing what you're doing, getting great guests. And next time you get Holtmann on, make sure I can make a special appearance or something.
We'll do that. Absolutely. Appreciate you coming on with us. And as soon as you're ready, we're ready to go on After Dark. So just let us know. I mean, all we did was beat the number 1 team in the country, and we didn't get anything from that, but that's okay. That's all right.
In Vegas, how's that? We'll get you on from Vegas at a blackjack table or something.
Yeah, it's funny because I just told Todd that I'm not gonna be able to go to Vegas because I'm doing radio stuff in Columbus now. So,
nice.
Which is good news, bad news. It's a little situation.
Exactly. You'll save yourself some money.
Yeah. Well, it would have been a free trip, but that's besides the point.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it, guys.